All right, how's it going, you guys? Today we are talking about the good, the bad, and what I would change with the assault class. So I just got done recording the tactical one, and this one is coming out after. So if you haven't checked out that video where I cover all of the good, the bad, and the reworks of the tactical, feel free to go and check that out so you can stay up to date with kind of what I'm thinking here. And some things that maybe stem into this one. So if you haven't watched that other video, then I will just let you know that this is just completely unscripted. We are just going off the dome. I just want to have an unbiased opinion going through the weapon variants and the perk tree and the skills and the ability and everything, and kind of just go over it without having any prerequisite. Sorry, a little bit of a lisp there, a little Discord moderator came out of me, a prerequisite, idealism of anything on here. I just want to basically look at it and tell you my honest opinion off the dome. So some of these opinions, maybe, maybe I'll forget to talk about a couple of things because, like I said, we're just going to go off the dome here. So let's get into the weapons. So obviously starting, you'll notice the big thing is that the assault doesn't have a primary weapon. I think this is a good. We'll go ahead and give that a big thumbs up, because I think that having it set up the way that Space Marine 2 has it, where the classes like Bulwark and Assault that are mainly melee focused and have other abilities that are really, really strong that help them on the battlefield, restricting them from a primary is a good call. You kind of notice that with most classes, is that if they're strong in something, they have another way of kind of making up for that strength. Like with Tactical, we talked about how they have so much versatility in ranged weapons, but then they're locked to only 2 melee weapons. So that is the inverse here for the Assault, where we have no primary availability and we have a secondary is our only option for ranged, but we have really good melee weapons. So let's get into it. So you'll notice here, in comparison to the Tactical, who only has 3 options for their secondary, we have a whopping 5 options here. So we obviously have the bolt pistol, the heavy bolt pistol, we do get the plasma pistol, we get the Inferno pistol, and we get the Neo Volkite pistol. So a lot more versatility already in regards to weapons, and I think that this is another good for the class because they are locked out of primary, so we need to have some versatility to make different builds and whatnot. I think that if I'm going to talk about anything here that is the bad, I think that the Inferno pistol is kind of pointless here. And I also think that the Neo Volkite is kind of pointless here. This thing kind of excels at long range. You'd probably be pretty hard pressed to find a good use for this really, really up close, especially when you've got really strong melee weapons like the Assault has. So yes, it is kind of giving the illusion of giving you more versatility, but you would be pretty hard pressed to find anybody running these as an Assault. There's not really a reason to be running these, so it kind of is just an illusion. I think the best weapons for the Assault are the plasma pistol. If you're not doing too much shooty shoot, this is a really good way to get back your contested health. Or I would say the heavy bolt pistol firepower variant or the ammo variant are also really good. Another one is the heroic bolt pistol. These are all my options, okay? So don't get too crazy if I don't mention your favorite variant to run with Assault or why you like running it. These are just my options. You can use almost anything as long as it's like relic tier, and it's going to be at least fairly viable. If you're an accuracy variant bolt pistol user and you're just like, I just like hitting more shots at longer distances, perfectly fine, perfectly viable. Just sharing my own opinions on what I think are the best. So yeah, I think that's pretty decent. You have a lot of variety. You can make use of pretty much all of these. It's just kind of like almost half of the secondary tree here that you do have is kind of like, why would you even use these? So I don't know. I wouldn't particularly say the game needs more secondaries, but it also would feel kind of bad if we were locked to only these 3. So I guess it's kind of nice that we do have the options for these ones. But yeah, the main bread and butter of the Assault class definitely is your array of melee weapons. So you do get the Chainsword, which is one of the options for the Tactical, which I think is weird because it is really, really strong, and it's weird. I just think that it's so weird that you get locked out as the Tactical of like so many other weapons. I really think that the Power Axe would do pretty good on that class. It would be fun to have, and it wouldn't be too much of a reason to like not have it there, because it's like it doesn't even have a heroic variant, and it's not even technically not even as strong. It's got less strength, at least, than the the chainsword. But yeah, anyways, doesn't matter. So you do get a really healthy array of weapons here. I think all of these weapons are in a pretty good place. I am comfortable using almost all of these with the assault at any given time. I definitely do have a favor for the Power Fist and the Thunder Hammer. I will very rarely from time to time use the Power Sword, and I don't think I actually... Oh no, this is leveled up because I played Vanguard so much with the Power Axe. I don't think I've ever actually used the Power Axe on assault, but I could definitely see it being very, very good, especially with doing like a gunstrike build, for instance. I think the Power Axe could really shine there. Something I don't use is the chainsword, because again, the chainsword is one of the most, universal weapons, I believe, or that or the combat knife is definitely on the most classes. And why would you really use the chainsword when you've got so many other better options? Kind of. Again, it's kind of a situation where I'm not saying this is like good or bad that the chainsword is here, because there are chainsword users that live and die by the chainsword, or preferably not die by the chainsword. I guess that's not good, but they live by this thing, and so it's nice to have it here for those who want to use it. But I hardly ever see anybody use this thing inside of a melee centric class like Bulwark or Assault, because you just have so many other options. What are you going to use the chainsword for that you're not going to use like the Power Fist for? This thing is going to absolutely wreck ass. Or the Thunder Hammer on assault, don't even get me started. This thing is going to absolutely shred. And then you've got the heroic variant of it, which yes is fairly weak and hits like a paper towel, but when you do your charge attacks, it's going to leave behind a shock grenade, and that's basically infinite. There's no cooldown on that, so as long as you've got jetpacks to use, you can just be throwing down grenades everywhere. So it does make up for it a lot. It's pretty strong. So I think the melee is in a really good spot for assault. I do have a lot of fun, especially with the big charged hitting attacks like the Power Fist and the Thunder Hammer are my personal bread and butter, so much so that the other weapons kind of get, they kind of get pushed under the table a little bit. I think that these are in a really good spot for the assault. We are going to just kind of leave it at that. I think I don't want to have another like super long video. The tactical video was like 40 minutes before I edit it, so I don't know how much I'll trim that down to, but we do want to keep this pretty concise. So let's go ahead and go into the perk tree. This is going to be the longest section that takes up the most time, because I'm going to kind of talk about most, if not all, perks really quick, really briefly, and just kind of say like, okay, is this a good perk? Does it overshine the other ones, or is it like bad, or what I would do to change this perk? So to start, we're going to talk about the jump pack. So obviously we've got ability jump pack, enables enhanced dashes and powerful jumps, resulting in new combat moves. Starting perk, perfect dodge timing increases by 50%. I think this is pretty good. I do not use the dash at all unless by accident. I do really want to go actually make an assault jump pack dash build specifically for it, because you can build for that, and I think that it would be fun to give it a little bit of a try, because I think that it is so overshadowed by undershadowed. I don't know. Again, this is just off the dome. I don't have a script, so terminology, you're just gonna have to follow along and wing it with me. But I do think that the jump pack slam is there's just way too much value with it, and there's too many perks that synergize with it that make it just too useful, like Zealous Blow, that you'd be pretty hard pressed to find use of making a full jump pack like dodge build. But I think that it can be viable. I'll have to kind of go and test that, because I haven't done it yet. I haven't played the build yet, but I want to go and play it and see how it holds up, because maybe I'm missing out on a secret gem. So we'll maybe circle back to this. Opinions could change once I go and do that. If you have played it and you prefer playing that way, let me know in the comments why and what brings you to doing that and kind of making that viable. So moving down into the perk trees, the first section here, we've got Winged Fury. Damage from melee attacks executed while sprinting or dashing increases by 100% and deals area of effect damage within a 7-meter radius, which is really small. Cooldown is 5 seconds. This perk is okay. It's okay. I don't know if it really needs to be like taken out or reworked. When I'm playing these classes, Bulwark especially, because he doesn't have a jetpack to get him in and out of combat with. But when I'm playing Bulwark, I always start combat by running and doing a lunging attack with whatever I'm using. I do the exact same with Assault because it's just really good for closing that little bit of distance and getting damage off at the same time. This is just a nice chef's kiss to making more, getting more value out of that, squeezing more value out of it. In the form of increasing the damage that it does and then also giving it an area of effect damage. With the Thunderhammer, you can also come down to the perk tree and you can actually get more Pommel Smash damage here, and enemies hit by Pommel Smash deal less damage, so you can actually get 50% more damage there as well, which I am running on my Thunderhammer. And so if you mix this with that as well, then you also get another 100%. So definitely useful, and pretty much it's only really used when you enter combat, when you like first engage in combat with an enemy, and you're pretty much going to always take like 5 seconds or more to kill the enemy that you're brawling with at the time. So the cooldown really isn't that bad because you're basically going to run in, you're going to do your Pommel Smash, dash attack, it's gonna do the area of effect damage, do increased damage, and then you're gonna probably follow it up with a double ground slam, and then that enemy is gonna be dead and the cooldown's gonna be gone, and then you're ready to charge it up again. So I don't play with this as much because we're going to get into other perks that are better, but it definitely isn't like the worst thing ever. Getting into Overcharge, if you're looking for just raw basic damage, this is the thing for you. I don't think perks like this really belong in the skill tree. I think this should just be in like the weapon tree, or break it up into like multiple weapon tree nodes for like the Thunderhammer or something like that, or like anything that has long, strong charge damage should just be like separated into the weapon perk tree over various nodes, or like add more nodes or something like that, or add like another another bar to go up and down to add more versatility or something like that. But I kind of am not super excited all the time when I just see raw damage number increases in the perk tree. I think the perk tree should be very centered around changing the way that you play and altering other factors other than just being like, here's 25% more damage, because obviously 25% more damage is pretty solid. It's not something to bat an eye at, but it's not fun. It doesn't give you a unique feature or something to like kind of change the way that you think. You're just going to do the same thing that you do anyways, but it's going to be a bit stronger. I think this perk and any perks that have, like, I don't think that it should go per se. Like I said, I think that it should just maybe get moved. I think anything centric around damage should be sent into the specific weapons perk tree, and the perk trees should be centered around 2 or 3 different ways to play with that weapon. So if you're going to have, like, I guess this could also be maybe moved to like the Thunderhammer perk tree or something like that. Like, move this to like a last perk for the Thunderhammer. Will that be really strong? Maybe. Will it ever happen? Absolutely not, because I'm not the developer and I don't influence that. But I think that that would be a good way to have just the overall general perks in Space Marine 2, just because then at least all your weapon perk trees are designated to what they do and a couple of ways to play that specific weapon, and then leave the skill tree to just make it so that you are playing like battlefield conditions and adding unique ways to play, making things more defensive so that you can have, you know, like something like conviction or defense mechanism, things like that that kind of like aid you in other ways other than just increasing, like doing more damage. But obviously you still need the damage, so just move it. Anyways, so we'll move on from there. I think these 2 perks probably could get moved. This one's okay here, I guess, but I think that they could just go bye-bye for like something more useful, especially when the next one is Armor Reinforcement. This is like your ultimate survival tool, especially for Assault, because you have next to no sustain, really. You're kind of just a glass cannon looking to deal so much damage and contest your health when you can. This is like your only way of keeping your armor topped up. And so I think that Armor Reinforcement, once you have it, just outperforms these 2 perks by a mile, which is why I think that if you had 2 other perks that kind of made more of an incentive for the way you play, or like maybe if you added Conviction here, or I don't know, just like anything that kind of helped with survivability to kind of contest this one's survivability and for like a different way to play, you know, something like that, then maybe it would make this more viable. Or maybe what they could do is add like a really good offensive item here, and then like a survivability thing here, and then like a utility thing here, and then that way you could kind of choose between, do you want more offense in this slot, do you need more defense in this slot, or do you need a utility? And then they could kind of do that and mix it up for all these. I don't know if that would be useful. But when it comes to survivability and armor reinforcement, this perk has so much value because it basically makes it so that you always get armor from your gun strikes, because this specifically says non-finisher gun strikes restore 1 armor segment, and when you shoot somebody with a gun strike, it's 50-50. You either finish them or you don't finish them. And if you do finish them, you get an armor for it. Would you ever believe it? And so now if you don't finish them, you also get an armor from it. Would you ever believe it? So... And even sometimes this procs twice, where if you gun strike a Majoris and you put them into execute, you're going to get the 1 armor because you didn't finish them. You know, they're still alive, so you get that armor. And then it gives you the option for a follow-up gun strike, which does finish them. So sometimes this allows you to squeeze 2 armor segments. You can fill your entire armor bar off of 1 Majoris. Super, super valuable. So when you got something like that, these perks, unless you're building a niche build for them, they're just not going to get touched, really, in my opinion. So next up here, we got Auxiliary Arsenal. Secondary weapons damage increases by 20%. Again, this is just another 20% damage increase. We don't really need this. There could be something so much more useful here, like any of these other perks. Obviously, I have this on here. I have it on and equipped because I do run it, because it is valuable. But if we just moved this damage somewhere into the weapons tree, or had the game balanced so that all of the damage increases, all that you needed were in the designated weapons to be able to actually do absolute comfortably, if we had it that way, then you wouldn't need extra additional damage increases for perks. There needs to be like other cool ideas and ways to augment how you play and like how you stay alive and how you interact with the environment and things like that, other than just saying, okay, your secondary weapon damage is increased by 20%. Here you go. Good luck. You know, like, that's boring. That kind of fucking sucks. But you take it because it's good, you know? And I think that that's kind of BS. Next up is defense mechanism. Contested health fades 50% more slowly. I think this is really good, especially if you need more survivability. It helps you contest more. It is a little bit controversial in my opinion with this, because having 20% more secondary weapon damage does also contest you more HP. So I guess you kind of need to decide what your bigger problem is if you're using either of these for survivability. Are you having problems with taking too much contested health and not being able to meet it in time? Or are you having trouble with losing contested health and not being able to contest it fast enough? This is going to help you contest health faster. This is going to help make it so that you can contest more over time if you're losing like large amounts and you need it to fade slowly. So kind of pick your poison there. I think that they're both very useful, but I would really like to see just raw damage increases go bye-bye in perk trees. Anyways, so we got consecutive execution here. This one is another gold standard. This one is like one of my favorite perks for things like Vanguard, because unless you're running with a tactical with secure stockpile, you got no way to really recharge your grenades, and having grenade recharging is super, super useful. I do think that these are the kinds of perks that are extremely valuable in the perk trees. You know, it's something that augments the way you play for a reward. Killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores an equipment charge by 1. The cooldown is 90 seconds. So it gives you something to like look for. It's kind of like if there's any Diablo players out there, you know, you've got cooldowns on your skills, and then you use your skills, and then there's ways to augment those skills so that you're using them for a specific reason, whether it be a damage increase or damage debuff on your enemies and things like that. Those things kind of like make builds fun. You know, you're waiting for your abilities to proc, and then you're making use of them, and you're getting a benefit, and then you're waiting for your ability on cooldown, and you're using other abilities in the meantime, and you're kind of mixing and matching. And consecutive execution does deliver that, because you've got a cooldown, so you're not always getting benefit of this, and then you've got something to look forward to when that cooldown is done. So you've got the tension, and then you've got the release of getting your grenade back and being able to use it. You know, there's your reward, your little treat for being a good boy. So this is what I think should be in this. I do think that defense mechanism is good here, and I think that consecutive execution is good here. I would like to see Auxiliary Arsenal go bye-bye and move into a more in-depth weapon profile for all of the different weapons, but of course, probably not going to see that. So moving on, we've got Perseverance. While performing charged attacks, you take 25% less health damage. Do not lose control upon taking heavy hits and cannot be knocked back. This is another gold standard perk, in my opinion, for giving you something outside of just saying you deal more damage. So this gives you a little bit of survivability because you do a lot of charged attacks. So if you're doing like a Thunderhammer build or you're doing like a Power Fist build and you're charging up long attacks, this gets lots of value. And also charged attack also counts as your jetpack. When you're priming up your jetpack slam, you're technically charging an attack. So you're going to jump up into the air and you're going to take less damage while doing it. And then when you hit the ground, you're going to get the do not lose control upon taking heavy hits. Or I guess, sorry, no, you're not going to get that because it's only while you're charging attacks you get the not losing control of and taking heavy hits. So not that part's not necessarily as useful when you're in the air, because I don't think you can get staggered in the air when you're doing that, but definitely very, very valuable when you are charging up a Thunderhammer slam or a large Power Fist attack. So that is something that we like to see. Knowledge of the enemy, melee damage increases by 15% against Majoris or Extremis level enemies. This one I would like to see go fucking bye-bye, because we already get this in the perk trees of the weapons, and I just think that that's where that should stay. Simple as, you know. So we'll kind of cut that short, because I just think that it's kind of dumb to see this, especially when you have other more useful things like Perseverance. And also it's only against Majoris and Extremis, and yes, that is like your main threats. For almost any difficulty, you're always going to be like needing to watch out for Majoris and Extremis level enemies, especially as you increase in difficulty. So yes, an extra 15% is nice, but you shouldn't need to have a whole perk slot used on that. All right. Next one, we got Active Attrition. This one's decent. Enemies hit by melee damage from melee attacks executed while sprinting or dashing take 25% more damage for 5 seconds. So this one is just a basic damage increase, but at least there's like a prerequisite for it to happen. You need to actually play a certain way. This is kind of what we're looking for. I don't think it's like the craziest perk ever. I don't take it all the time. It is fairly decent, but like at least this augments the way that you're playing. So you need to remember, okay, I've got Active Attrition on. Enemies hit by damage from melee attacks executed while sprinting or dashing take 25% more damage. And then you also got to remember that it's not limited to melee damage. So you can go ahead, you can run in, you can activate Active Attrition, you can pull out your sidearm, and you can go ahead and mag dump into the nearest enemy and get 25% more damage, or you can go ahead and counterattack with like a ground slam for more damage, right? So while it is just a raw damage increase hiding behind some fancy words, at least this is doing something other than just saying, here's 15%. You know, you're needing to do something to receive the benefit of that, which is what we like to see. So for the team perks, we got Squad Cohesion. All squad members' abilities recharge 10% faster. I think this is a really good gold standard for a team perk. It's just useful for everybody, and that's how I think that all team perks should be designed. Something that's just generally beneficial for the entire team. Is this the best team perk ever? Absolutely not. It's not the craziest. 10% is definitely like useful, but there are better options, especially when it's undermined by something like Unmatched Zeal, Secure Stockpile, you know, something like things like that. This all of a sudden, in contrast to those, isn't exactly useful. I think that there's better options. Strategic Strikes. All squad members deal 25% more damage against Extremis and Terminus enemies. Again, this is just a damage increase. Why are they hitting Assault with just damage increases? I know that they are meant to be the glass cannon. They're meant to do that. But move all of your heavy hitting damage perks into the weapon trees. All right. I don't know if lots of people out there are going to agree, because you're going to hear that a lot probably, but I think that the perk tree is just not the place for it. I think that this just needs to be something, because what if you're playing with a heavy? You know, this is very specific. It's a damage increase that's very specific to only melee. It's very specific to only Extremis and only Terminus, and there's no prerequisite to activate it for anybody. You just have it. Kind of bullshit. Kind of boring. Big yawn. Moving on. Proven efficiency. All squad members deal 30% more gunstrike damage. Again, it's just a raw damage increase. Not super exciting. Pretty fucking boring. Pretty lame, honestly. But it can be pretty useful. And it is kind of nice that it is locked behind gunstrikes. At least that's something that you need to kind of set up and make an effort to do. I would like to see something else. I think the team perks are severely lacking here. When I'm playing as Assault, I'm not particularly enticed with any of them, and if I'm playing alongside an Assault, I think this is one of the biggest motivators where the Assault catches flack for not being a very good team player, because you can be a very strong, you know, attacker, and you can kill so many enemies on the field, and you can go and cut enemies off before they get into battle, but like, what the fuck is this shit? You know, I don't know. Like, I like Assault. I have a lot of fun playing it. This is all kind of BS. I don't really like any of these, which is why I run Squad Cohesion. But again, it's just when there's other perks, man, like Sniper's perk that gives you 10% back for any headshot kill. That's gonna probably get a lot more value than just having 10%. You know, I guess as long as you're getting headshot kills. Anyways. Okay, so moving on, we've got Smiting Angel. Ground pound's damage increases by 25%. Do I need to repeat myself? I probably don't. I think you guys get the message already, you know, through this video. Basic damage increase. I don't really think this has much of a place. There needs to be a prerequisite thing to meet, and then maybe this would be good, like when you hit a gun strike, ground pound's damage increases by 25%. Something like that. Something that ties in to make this useful so that you do 30% more gun strike, and then you also get a benefit from Smiting Angel, instead of just saying, you have this. Boring, you know? Very boring. Don't like. Hammer of Wrath, after using your jump pack, take 30% less range damage, do not lose control upon taking heavy hits, and cannot be knocked back for 15 seconds. This is good. I like this a lot. It basically gives you a prerequisite of using your jump pack, and then it gives you a reward, and it has a timer on it so that you need to keep on re-upping it. That gives you something to be thinking about, something to pay attention to. It gives depth to the class, and it gives depth to what you're doing. This is definitely a gold standard perk for me. Precision Strike, ground pound deals 100% more damage, but its radius is reduced by 50%. This is just a stat damage increase, but it also is a very sizable one. It wouldn't make sense to put this anywhere in a weapons one. I do think that this does have a place because it changes the way that you play. Because if you're running Precision Strike, you're probably not running Zealous Blow, and if you are, you're not getting as much use from Zealous Blow, which makes you want to go for other perks, thus augmenting the way you play. So while this is just a base damage increase, it also has a negative to it, which makes it so that you change the way you build your skill tree, which is what we like to see. So I will give Precision Strike a pass. I do like it. I think that it's very useful, and it definitely has a place in the perk tree. Because, yeah, you wouldn't just be able to throw this perk into any weapon and be like, oh, yeah, here's Precision Strike. Like, that's really busted. Obviously, we wouldn't see that. So I do think that Precision Strike does have a good place in the perk tree. So then we've got Wings of Flame. A jump pack dash damages enemies along a trajectory and always works as a perfect dodge when dodging an attack. I actually do really like this. I don't know if this is undermined by other perks for a lot of people, but I like the idea that they are actually putting an effort into the assault to make it so that you don't just always want to build for a jump pack slam build. You can actually make a jump pack dodge build with Wings of Flame and what is it? I think Commitment. A perfectly timed dodge using a jump pack dash restores the jump pack ability charge. So you can kind of just be dodging around all over the damn place, and I'm pretty excited to try that build out. I haven't, so I can't speak too much on it in this video, but I am pretty excited to go and make a build out of that, which is what this game should be. You should be excited to go and make new builds and try new things and play a different way. That's why we talk so heavily about needing more perks specifically, or just augmenting perks that exist into ones that actually make you play in a different way and meet different criteria. So we've got maneuverability, jump pack recharges 20% faster. I think this is pretty good. This kind of needs to be somewhere in the perk tree. I think that a lot of classes just need just a stat jump pack, or sorry, not jump pack, but standard ability regeneration, even if it's met by like a downside of some kind, as long as it's not too detrimental, just so that you can have your ability more often, and at least it's an option. Like, there are other good options, like you could use Wings of Flame for that build, or Zealous Blow obviously is the gold standard for this tree here. But if you didn't want to and you just wanted to have it recharge a bit faster, it shouldn't really be a toss-up, maybe. But I guess it's probably good to have it in the same tree, because it's like, okay, do you want to play a different way by using Zealous Blow and focusing on killing Minoris enemies to get this back and just ground slamming back and forth, or like back to back, or do you just want to have the general usefulness of having it recharge 20% faster for the entire of the game? So something like that is fairly useful. This perk does have a 100% uptime. It doesn't really add too much interest like we've been talking about. That's kind of been the big thing about adding like some way of acquiring this 20%. But when it comes to just having a 20%, I think this is fairly useful to just have at least somewhere in the tree. And it is kind of nice that it is paired up with at least one other way to increase, the amount of time that you can keep your ability useful. That way it's not like stacking over here. So you've got like 20% increased here, and then you've got the ground pound restores here. So I think that's definitely why they did that, just so that you don't have too much availability, but at least you can pick out of it. So we've got Pride in Duty. After a finisher, ground pound deals 25% more damage. This one's decent, because it's kind of like this one over here, where it just does 25% more increased damage, but you have to actually do a finisher. So I think that this one is decent. So stuff like this is, they're kind of aiming a bit more in the right direction with this. It's still not the most interesting, and it's definitely not even the best one in this area, but it's, at least this one is kind of got the right idea, meet a criteria, get a reward for it. Then we got Diligence. A fully prepared ground pound deals 20% more damage, but preparation time increases by 25%. I like this one a lot. I think this is probably my favorite in this part of the skill tree because, yeah, it gives you a reward. It's got a negative to it. The negative isn't too detrimental, and it kind of changes the way you play. You need to remember that you need to fully prepare your ground slam and then pick your target. It gives you time to breathe and kind of, you know, take a look at the battlefield, figure out what a priority target is, and then dash over there, dealing increased damage. I think that's a gold standard perk for this tree. Then we've got Aerial Grace. After a perfectly timed dodge using a jump pack dash, you deal 30% more damage. I think this is also really good because it gives you a new way to play. It synergizes really well with Wings of Flame, and it synergizes with Commitment for a dodging build, which that's what I'm going to run when I decide to run that for a video. So I think that this is another gold standard. After a perfectly timed dodge, that's your prerequisite, and then you deal 30% more damage. That's your reward, and you have a timer for it, which adds some urgency to make use out of it, so 10 seconds. Then we got Signature here, Ample Ammunition. Any use of jump pack reloads the equipped ranged weapon, and its damage is increased by 50%. This is my personal favorite, which might change after I do the Commitment build. You know, maybe that'll change, but for now, running the ranged damage assault is like my favorite way to play, where you basically just use your jump pack for massive damage, range damage multipliers, and then just, you know, mag dump into the nearest head, putting them into execute, grab the execute or whatever you need to do, and then jump back to another enemy. Super strong, super fun. Keeps you mobile and gives you an incentive to be using your jump pack charges and not just be wasting them as well. Ascension Jump Pack Leap deals damage to all enemies in the takeoff area. I think this is pretty ass, because usually you are using your jump pack to get to a pack of enemies, not to be killing enemies that are around you. This can see use if you're getting surrounded and you need a quick getaway, but I find that Assault is more times than not a charge into battle and not charge away from battle kind of thing. It could be kind of useful, I guess, if you're completely surrounded and you were just going to jump up in the air and do a ground slam right back. Then it can be useful, but what's to stop you from jumping up and then not dealing the Ascension damage and then slamming back down and killing anything anyways, but then also getting ample ammunition instead of just having that wasted, essentially. So I think that this perk is not very good. I think that it could probably get reworked or gone away, or maybe moved into the Prestige perk instead. And then we've got Commitment. I do think that this is really good. Perfectly timed dodge using a jump pack dash restores the jump pack's ability charge, because we've got the Wings of Flame, which basically always makes it work as a perfect dodge, so you are just always getting benefit from that. Again, this is just another way that it makes you play in a different way, and that is definitely what we need. So Assault definitely is kind of lucky in that sense, because not a lot of classes are you know, lucky in that way, where they've got signature perks that, you know, kind of entice you to play in a different manner, and that's what I think makes the Assault sorry, my throat's drying up. I need to go grab some water after this video. I think that that's what really sets the Assault apart, and what does kind of make it very enticing is that you kind of have some more options to play other than just one way. So definitely nice. And then for the Prestige perks, I'm just going to kind of throw it out there that I think the Prestige perk system kind of needs a rework. Well, maybe not a rework. I think that it kind of works. You know, the Prestige system in any game has always been level up your character, reset to 1, level it up again, you know, but once you reset, every time you reset, you get a, you know, a new perk or a new thing. I just think a lot of these are not very good. Again, we've got range damage. That's just a basic stat increase. Perfect parry and perfect block windows. That's just a noob trap. You know, things like that. I do think things like Adrenaline Boost are good because it gives you, you know, a defensive ability, and there's something that you need to do to actually proc it. Unyielding Oath, I think, is a really good example of what is good for a Prestige perk. Very powerful. It gives you a little bit of iframes when you are charging up a ground pound. Things like that, you know, things that actually change the way that you play. And then I think that Fortitude does have a good spot. Yeah, so I think some of these are useful, but some of them definitely need to go and need like better options that kind of change the way you play. I forget where I left off. I lost my train of thought. All right. So I lost my train of thought there, but yeah, you guys get the gist. So we're going to wrap up the video there. So let me know in the comments, you know, did you agree with some of my takes? Did you not agree with some of my takes? Kind of what would you guys like to see? What did you think is the good? Sorry, what do you think are the good, the bad, and what kind of needs to change or rework for the assault class? I appreciate having you here and, you know, taking the time to listen to my opinion and watch my video. So definitely, you know, take care. I hope you have a good day, and we'll catch you in another video sometime soon. Goodbye.